Chapter 2. The Portal. Her only means of escape was frozen shut. Gloria frantically yelled for help. Instantly, a light appeared. This seemed strange, since the light switch next to the door had been broken for the last 6 months. She snapped around, firmly planting her back against the unyielding door. There he was, a young man appearing to be in his early 20s, standing there behind her desk. He held in his hands what appeared to be the source of the light, a twig or tree branch of some kind, not more than a half-meter in length. It was thin and fragile-looking, almost clear, yet iridescent and brilliantly shining. Beautiful light it was, not simply white light, but light as if passing through a diamond-crusted lens made of tiny prisms shooting millions of brilliant colors. So real were these tiny particles, she reached out and felt them, like the fine mist setting on a garden hose. But something was different. You would expect light to illuminate its surroundings. This light did not. Instead, each particle was completely absorbed by whatever it came in contact with. From fabric to mirror, everything stayed dark. Nothing could reflect this light, only absorb it. How this branch could behave this way was unreal, yet real it was for Gloria, and so was the feeling of everything starting to change. She didn't exactly know how or in what way, but she knew some kind of transformation was taking place, and it was all because of that branch. Her visitor was eerily dazzling, dressed in a garment of bright white. Oddly, he was the only thing in the room reflecting that light instead of absorbing it. And as the pins of brightness bounced away, the sound of tiny bells, more organic in nature than metallic, rang out. They composed a strange kind of music with tones bending up and down, almost singing as they formed splendid arcs of light and sound. A thin gray border lined the hem of his garment. The rest was blinding white. The fabric flowed with an unusual slowness, the way it would move if it was underwater. He raised the twig as a conductor might lift a baton and held it there. Some of the items in her room now started to gleam like he did. Her 4 walls, her desk, cabinets, coat rack, and credenza were all glowing. With each object taking on that light, the strange music became louder and more complete. "What do you want from me?" she called, while taking note of the distance between them and looking to grab hold of anything she could use as a makeshift weapon. Gloria reached slowly along the wall to her right and took hold of an umbrella. "I mean you no harm. Please believe me. I have come here in search of answers," he responded. His accent was unrecognizable. It was like none she'd ever heard before in all her travels. Perhaps it was something about the voice itself. Perhaps it didn't even sound human at all. More like what an animal, like a large dog or mountain lion, might sound like if it were able to formulate words. But more obvious was the tone of confusion and hesitancy in his voice. "I do not know how you are able to see me. This should not be possible." He examined the floating branch above them as if checking for a malfunction, and then slowly lowered his hand. The branch stayed there and continued to increase in brightness. "I never imagined that this could ever be possible." "Fascinating," he proclaimed, his eyes shining brightly as if lit by flames, dancing around the black hole darkness of his pupils. His face was fair and unblemished, with features that looked almost too perfect to be real, framed by long flowing locks of reddish hair glowing with the same fire that burned within his eyes. As he spoke, she could feel he was captured by the same sense of awe and wonder that gripped her. Suddenly, she knew they were sharing a moment of innocent amazement. All of her fears and anxieties were slowly melting away. Gloria gazed at that floating branch and the continuous spectacle of color unfolding before them. Before she knew it, she was completely relaxed and in a state of peace, a peace she hadn't felt for many years, a peace that reminded her of that dream she had a few hours earlier, a peace reminiscent of those words, "It's gonna be all right." She fought it at first, but reason was no longer in control. There was some strange power at work, and she couldn't deny it. Whether she gave in or was subdued, she couldn't truly tell. All she knew was she had willingly surrendered to the same force that silenced the clamor just outside her room. "What are you looking for? Who are you?" she asked. "I am a scientist and a traveler," he answered as he moved forward, but instead of walking around the desk, he walked through it until he stood directly in front of her. "A hologram, an illusion or trick of some kind. Is that what this is?" she asked, as part of her reasoning and logic returned to challenge the moment with skepticism and incredulity. "No, Miss Fiveland, this is no trick, as you say. What I am about to tell you will be hard for you to accept. Your knowledge, your logic and reasoning will tell you it is impossible. But because of this pivotal moment in your world's history, the passageway has become more easily accessible." Without saying a word, she thought to herself that maybe she was still dreaming. "No, it is not," he replied. "What?" "This is no dream." "How could you know what I was thinking?" "I know what you are thinking because in this present moment, we are connected in what is called the half-realm. We exist together in this state of altered being that goes far beyond the conventional limits of time and space. I see what you see. Likewise, you can see what I see. Just look, your room is starting to change, is it not?" Gloria slowly turned to her left and right. The floor was melting away, revealing a different landscape of bluish-violet foliage, speckled with tiny yellow florets, swaying softly on a warm breeze that danced around her legs. What used to be the outer wall was turning into a line of strange-looking white-barked trees, apparently the same type of tree where the branch came from. These trees were barren and bleak, save a few shimmering leaves clinging to stiffened branches. The ceiling dissolved away, revealing an unusual teal-green sky, graced by the flight of small birds that were almost the same greenish color, but slightly darker in shade. In random flight patterns, they glided back and forth, singing the most unusual song. Beautiful yet crestfallen, as if communicating to each other words of both consolation and forlorn. She stepped forward, now accepting this new reality. But as she did, Gloria felt as if part of her lagged behind. Looking back, she viewed a trail of images of herself. They were semi-transparent and still, as if a slow-motion camera were making multiple shots of her movements. She raised her hand to her face, producing a trail of hundreds, perhaps thousands of images, following her every movement. Time is no longer as you know it. You can revisit any moment you like, from the instant you closed your office door to the present moment of consciousness. She tested his words and viewed herself struggling to open the door. Then she witnessed the moment she spun around and saw him behind her desk. But not only did she see it, she felt it as well. All the emotions, all the anxiety, and every thought passing through her mind. She controlled it all. She dictated how completely detached or immersed she wanted to be. It was as if she was somewhere between watching a video and re-experiencing a past memory in some kind of a dream. But she was totally in charge, moving backward and forward in time. The more she explored this phenomenon, the more she grew accustomed to it. Soon, the trails of images all made complete sense, as if this is the way reality was supposed to be. Finally, after acclimating herself to this new paradigm, she once again focused on her visitor. How do I know what moment is truly the present? The present is eternal. We are always in the present, no matter where we go or what we think. The past is always accessible, and the future is, well, the future is complicated. She thought about what Max Cole said about time and thought he would have loved this place. What do you mean the future is complicated? We are from different times, yet both here. We are sharing this present moment. Your future is my past. Yet in this realm, we are both sharing a present state of mind. Here, it makes perfect sense. Yet when you leave this place, you will not remember any of it. The ground beneath her feet suddenly became soft, almost too soft or fragile to walk upon with shoes. It was like the ground had a mind of its own, disapproving or shuddering in discomfort. So she slipped off her heels and for the first time came in direct contact with her new surroundings. The branch instantly responded, moving from its hovering position just above their heads, and she knew at that moment that its task was completed. It floated back to one of the trees in front of them and reconnected itself to one of its branches. The bright light in the branch dimmed, assuming the same off-white translucence and pale glow of the other trees. Gloria moved to stand under the trees. It was peaceful and beautiful there. The branches didn't move, but still felt like they were caressing her shoulders in a warm embrace. She thought again about her reoccurring dream from childhood. Familiar memories and emotions started to flood her soul. The traveler joined her and pointed past the line of trees to a broad cliff falling into a vast ravine. Looking up, a setting green sky washed with broad strokes of orange, turquoise, and violet clouds melting slowly together as a huge, tired, red sun sank into the distant horizon. The darkling vale below was laced with glistening waterways, carving a mosaic of interconnected landmasses, graced with unusual yet beautiful homes and dwelling places. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people lived in this land. Although they were too far away to see them, Gloria could still sense them and everything about them. They possessed a kind of organic harmony with their surroundings. Whoever these people were, they were quite advanced in every way. This was, in fact, the home world of her visitor. And even before she could ask a question, she already knew the answer. He was right. They were truly connected in the most unusual way. She knew him. She knew his name and where he came from, who his neighbors were. He also looked different in this world, for in this place he assumed his true appearance. On Earth, he would look hideous and crippled, an unsightly mound of flesh only a meter tall, covered in an unusually bright tunic. But here, in this environment, somehow it did not matter. This was the Gothouwidt way of life. Suddenly, she knew why he came to her office and why he wanted to know if Perkel was once an inhabitant of Earth. "I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about your leader," We've never traveled beyond this solar system. You will soon have interstellar capabilities, this I assure you. But there must be another reason why the Morricell has brought me here. Well, you know all my thoughts. I don't know what else I can tell you, except that maybe there's more to the history of my planet than I'm aware of. Gloria inhaled deeply air that was never meant for human lungs. She gazed once again at the alien countryside and said, "What a beautiful world this is, Silta. I've never seen anything like this. Oh, this is a memory. One of your memories. I see. Oh, I'm so sorry. This place, your people, all of it is going to..." "Yes," he responded sadly. A crippling sense of despair suddenly filled the air. It was in the song of the birds as they circled above. She lifted her head and tears filled her eyes. Nothing was spoken after that, except for the silent conversation that went on for another hour. Every time a question rose between them, it never got past their lips, for the answer was instantly known. Gothouwidt would soon be destroyed. Even with all their experience, intelligence, and wit, there was nothing they could do to stop it. But we took too long. Maybe if we'd acted sooner. But it was too late. As they pondered together this recollection of Silta's homeworld, Gloria was overcome with compassion, watching him gazing helplessly down into the valley of his doomed homeworld. No way to move so many on such short notice, especially when there is no place to run, no escape. I know this is no consolation, Silta, but thank you for bringing me here. It is not my doing, he responded. This is what the Morricell does. This is a connection far beyond anything either of us can comprehend. I have seen this play out on more than one occasion. What I thought I was searching for was actually only a part of some greater disclosure of the truth. Truth? What is truth? She asked, thinking back on the many disappointments and misgivings she'd experienced in her 40 years on planet Earth. I've been asking that same question all my life as well. I believed it was a collection of verified information and facts that were undeniable. For me, truth was what my authorities and those whom I trusted dictated to me. But even they, in all their knowledge and wisdom and stature, would often misrepresent those irrefutable facts. Seems no matter how far you travel in time or space, we're all subject to the same human frailties, Gloria suggested, with a sarcastic smile slowly stretching across her face. Do your people believe in a god or a deity? What is that? He asked. Those terms are foreign to me. You've never heard of the term God? If you are referring to an omniscient power or force that governs the affairs of existence, then there is only Perkel. The collective knows all and manages every part of our social structure. This is how it has been for millions of years, for as far back as our history is known. And yet you're here with me now questioning that authority. Only because of the Morricell. It is the one thing that even Perkel cannot fully understand. They have learned how to manage it, harness it, even exploit it, but they have never fully grasped its origins nor its inherent power. I am one of very few individuals who know this side of its power. We are called travelers. In the past, the Perkel eliminated us because they did not understand why we were granted access to the portal and they were not. It took a very long time for them to realize that even travelers like me could also become a means of exploitation and control. So, some of us survive, but only for the express purpose of serving the Perkel. Gloria looked further along the horizon to the north, where just above the line of Morrisel trees was one of their moons waning in the dusk of that spectacular sunset. The moon was clearly in distress, being pulled apart as chunks of it made their way toward the planet's surface. Those projectiles will utterly destroy this area by tomorrow evening. Shortly after that, the planet itself will be pulled apart by the gravitational pull of the event horizon. This was the last moment I could enjoy the beauty of my homeworld before I was forced to leave. Gloria knew how difficult it was for Silta to leave, for he had no choice. The Perkel forced him aboard the vessel, leaving everyone he knew and was fond of behind. "You know," she finally said, conjuring up the courage to speak, "I never believed there was a God. Like you, I also decided only believe what was dictated to me by those I trusted. And if they failed me, well then, I could always just trust myself. But lately, I can't even say that I can do that. But when I look at all this and I see the senseless destruction of so many lives, I have to wonder, how would a God allow all this to happen?" "That is a question. A very good question, Gloria. But I do have another question about your homeworld. I have noticed there is no Morrisel in your present world. Has there ever been any?" "I have never seen anything like this plant in all my life," she offered, gazing at the line of Morrisel trees to her left. "I believe that it once flourished here. I have no proof yet, but I believe it to be so. I also know that the name Perkel has no meaning for you, and it is nowhere in your historical records, as far as I can tell. But I believe the collective was established here. I just need more time to learn the truth." "Yes, the truth." Then, for no apparent reason, Silta's countenance darkened. The fire in his eyes was extinguished. They were both aware of an overbearing presence as it instantly gripped their shared consciousness. Gloria's heart was racing, although she wasn't sure exactly why. "What's happening?" "I must go. They are coming. They must know that I have traveled here." "Who? The Perkel?" "I must sever this connection and return you to your reality, Gloria. It is highly likely you will not remember any of this. But here, take this," he said, reaching under his garment to hand her a small piece of glowing branch. The section was only 2 centimeters in length. "You will remember this. It is Morrisel. Keep it safe and tell no one about it." He placed it in the palm of her left hand. It sat there for a moment before painlessly submerging below the surface of her open palm. She felt only a slight tingling as the soft glow of the branch warmed her hand. "Maybe we will speak again when it is safe." Suddenly, it was getting colder and darker. Everything around her felt strange. "Wait, you can't go yet. I don't want this to end." But as she reached out to what should have been his forearm, her hand fell through it as if she was reaching out to grab smoke. That was her last recollection of the experience. Parts of her coffee table started to reappear. The corner of her desk, the base of the coat rack, the picture of her son Michael's first baseball game, the one with that infectious grin of his. There he was, smiling at her from the credenza against the side wall of her office, the same wall with the wine stain from last year's crazy office party. Everything started returning back to normal. Was this all just a dream? She thought as she cried out one last time before losing all recollection of Silta and his world. You can't just leave me like this. No, not like this, please. But it was too late. He was gone. Gloria started to feel sick. Her head started pounding and the room was spinning as her legs gave out from under her. She fell to the floor. The pounding was getting louder and louder until it finally ceased with a loud thud as someone broke open the door. It was Jerry Merlot, along with Nancy Woodhead, one of her interns. Nancy would later explain that only seconds had passed after Gloria had closed the door to the office. The intern heard the pounding and instantly tried to open the door herself, but it wouldn't budge. So she yelled for Jerry down the hall. That is when he broke through and found Gloria passed out on the floor.
Call 911!
Jerry snapped as others came to the door. Nancy had some first aid experience and quickly assessed that Gloria was falling into shock. Jerry, now thinking that the condition was under control and not life-threatening, started to get up and go about the business of finding another reporter to get to the White House in time for the press conference. But before he did, he made a quick attempt at removing the phone from Gloria's wrist. He pulled hard once, but noticed that Nancy was watching. So he gave up trying and instantly rose to his feet, telling her,
"Stay with her until the paramedics arrive."
Then he just walked out of the room. For Gloria, it felt as if only seconds had passed. When she awoke, she found herself in the medical center across town. The room was sterile, yet serene. The LED ceiling glowed softly as she opened her eyes for the first time since the experience in the office, and now pervade her present surroundings. A nurse was by her side reading the monitors and taking notes. What? Where? Gloria muttered. "Don't talk, Mrs. Fiveland," answered the nurse. "Just relax. You've been unconscious for about a day now. You suffered a slight head trauma, but you'll be fine. You're in the medical center. Just lay back and rest." "But where is he?" "Where's the doctor? Oh, he'll be in here in a moment. I've just alerted him that you've regained consciousness."
"No, I...
But then she stopped herself, unsure of what she wanted to say. Looking over to the window, the blinds were fully closed, allowing only small slits of daylight to peek in. Laying her head back softly, she glanced up at the ceiling once more. For a moment, she thought she could see right through the 3 floors above, right through the roof and into the bright blue midday sky. "It's clear out, isn't it? Not a cloud in the sky," she offered calmly, with a strange confidence. The nurse stopped for a moment and looked at her. She looked at the window and smiled. "You're right. It's a beautifully clear day. How did you know that?" "Moricel,"